There was a new Associated Press article that came out about like the New Left media and how New Left media has played a formative role in getting Abdul out there in front of a lot of people. Dave Weigel tweeted about it as well. Here it is. This is really smart. Ali Swenson's story about the rise of progressive media, which I think has been a massive factor in Michigan Senate. El Sayed ran for governor in 2018. There was no breaking points, no Zateo, no drop site. TikTok wasn't a big deal yet. Reels didn't rip it off yet. Traditional media mattered a lot more, and getting your message out without it was pretty tough. In the 2018 campaign, El Sayed had to fend off a long challenge to his residency, which hurt both his fundraising and his media reach. Is a channel going to send a producer and crew for a candidate who might get tossed off the ballot? El Sayed built his own media profile after losing that race, books, podcasts, and got better at winning the For You page. There's also just much more media that gets in front of normal voters now, and he was all over it, while that same media was mocking Stevens. I didn't even mention Hasan the Hun. A turning point in Michigan Senate was McMorrow condemning El Sayed. Haley Stevens did that too, by the way, not just McMorrow, for campaigning with Hasan, something that most people clearly don't find offensive. Made her look like a hand-wringing scold while El Sayed was going for a new audience. So here's the interesting thing about this analysis. There is some truth. There is some truth to this. A new media ecosystem is taking root on the left and reshaping Democratic Party politics. These are all, this is our backyard, right? We've been doing this for the last decade almost, right? This didn't just like materialize out of the blue. This didn't materialize out of thin air. This is something that we have been developing for years and years. Okay, it's been even longer than the last 10 years. I would say it's I've been around for even longer than that. It was TYT, Majority Report, Air America that like then merged into all of this stuff. But it's New Left media. Okay, did you get a bump in viewership after getting more mainstream attention? Barbara Streisand effect? Not necessarily. I don't think I did. I don't think it's been all that helpful in terms of like bringing in new audiences. I think nothing aids on Twitch and on YouTube. Nothing is as powerful as the algorithm is. Nothing is as powerful as like key collaborations are. I don't think like being talked about in mainstream media actually gives me any boost in my analytics. I haven't seen it. It does give me real credibility in the real world though. Like, I think it puts me in front of a lot more people. I will say anecdotally, from my own personal experiences in the real world, a lot more people recognize me in public now, more than ever before, even. And there were plenty of people who would recognize me in public in the past as well. So that definitely has like I get more normie recognition overall. So mainstream media does have that capacity to boost your normie recognition. So there's IRL growth, but I don't think I have a lot of like newer viewers that came in because of the positive or negative coverage from mainstream media at all. I've said this before. There was a period of time when all these articles were being written about me, all these profiles were being written about me about how like I'm the Joe Rogan of the left, all this shit, and none of that did anything to my real analytics on Twitch as one Theo Vaughn appearance did. One Theo Vaughn appearance was far more impactful than anything else. I just think about you being on CNN or whatever while flying back and the guy next to you looks at you. Yeah. But in any case, it's fine. This is why Hannity won't have you on. No, Hannity, it doesn't have any motion. It would be impactful for him if I actually had him on. It would be better for him if I went on his stream than it would be, or his podcast, than it would be for me. Yeah, you're just consistent, 25 to 30K for 6 years. You don't really get interviewed on CNN mainstream news, to be fair. Yeah, I don't. I'm not going to lie, Hasan, you got a workshop. That whole sitting with politicians doesn't help me at all. It definitely does help. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You guys are wrong. There's two different worlds out there, okay? The real world, the IRL world with the normies, and the world that like mainstream media cares about, and then the internet world. On the internet world, me doing all of this shit with politicians don't give a fuck, don't matter even a little bit. Like, here, I'll give you an example, okay? This corner of the internet that we're on, specifically on Twitch or TikTok or all these other places, like, they don't care about real world impact at all. They care a lot more about what the algorithm shows you, right? They care a lot more about what the algo shows you. And what the algo shows you is, clips, oftentimes out of context, or bad clips, negative clips, in my experience, and then sometimes good clips as well, drama, all this shit. That's what gives you, that's usually what boosts your profile. Like going to the streamer awards or doing the streamer games like Ludwig Streamer Games or going to Streamer University would be unbelievably impactful, like far more impactful as far as like putting me in front of a lot of new eyeballs than doing a million mainstream media interviews. Yeah. Doing real life political work, whether it be interviewing candidates or whatever the fuck, is far worse for the algorithm. It's not fun content that people enjoy. I mean, you guys are obviously hyper autistic and you think it's good, but from a pure analytics perspective, it's not. This is what I do. This is my job. Okay? I'm telling you. I do it because that's what matters the most to me, but I don't do it for clout. Yeah, it doesn't seem to have helped you with viewers, which sucks for streamer Hasan, but for Hasan, the political actor, it's huge. It's bought you a lot of credibility with journalists, candidates, and people in policy circles. So it was a double-edged sword. Yeah. Well, hopefully one day I can rebalance it a little bit better and do more normie focused, like fun content and more collaborations and stuff like that with other streamers, so that we can still bring in a newer audience, a younger audience as well, and get them more primed to be excited to go out and vote and engage in political activism, political advocacy, and establish a better base for them and their understanding of the world in general. Because right now, there is still a lot of resilient, like anti-woke tendencies amongst Gen Z that are quote unquote apolitical, and those people still are those younger apolitical people still are like, yeah, Hasan sucks. He's a real evil villain. But the anti-woke stuff is breaking, so our time will come again, because there's an inevitability. There's an inevitability to those guys growing up and finding their own footing in the political universe. Believe it or not, I actually found you through JCS Reacts and recaps on your back and forth with Video Game Donkey, anecdotal, but even among the politically obsessed, that the fun stuff brings people in. Yeah, no, for sure. Anyway. But this has been impactful. Farrah Barron, a physician assistant in Holland, Michigan, used to learn about politics from channels like ABC, CBS, and CNN, but that changed as she decided that coverage of the war in Gaza was irreparably biased. Another thing that I called out for the last 3 years. If you remember, I said establishment media, mainstream media, is destroying its credibility by defending Israel, by defending the American State Department project, first under the Biden administration, and then certainly under the Trump administration. This is forcing people's hand to seek out alternatives. We are the alternatives. We are actually offering real, on-the-ground coverage from the people who are being attacked. We're putting the camera on the people who are victim to these strikes, and not going and talking to the people who are doing the strikes. Okay, as Amy Goodman likes to say, point the camera at the victims rather than the perpetrators. Mainstream media always points the camera at the perpetrators, and here's their perspective. And people were sick and tired of it after 2 years, 3 years of this carnage that they were seeing, and no adequate coverage over that carnage, right? Brent is among many progressive-minded Americans who have sworn off legacy media institutions. They're turning to a widening mix of independent podcasts, social media accounts, and digital news sites. Now, lucky for the Associated Press, the previous iteration of this establishment media credibility sink came with COVID. And what people were seeking out at that time was really bad alternatives. People who were insane, people who were objectively anti-science, people who were reactionary, right? We can have a conversation about whether or not mainstream media should have lost their credibility because of their COVID coverage. I don't think they should have. They were doing the right thing at that point. They were trying to manage a novel virus that was killing people by the millions. And they were trying to communicate complex epidemiologists, the complex prevention spread of disease, like disease prevention messaging, and disseminate that to a broad audience to the best of their ability. There was obviously a lot of things that even the epidemiologists, scientists got wrong. It was a novel virus, right? Not that complex. Yes, it is complex. They were trying to contain this thing. They were trying to educate people. People didn't want to listen. So they sought out people like Joe Rogan. But this time, lucky for the population, I guess, people were actually looking for credible reporting, not simply seeking out like their own, biases, but actually working against the bias of mainstream outlets. Do you understand? On April 6th, Abdul al-Sayed had only a 27% chance of winning the Democratic primary. On April 7th, he campaigned with Hasan the Hun. Look at what happens to his odds of victory after that moment. The establishment thought elevating and attacking Hasan would help them, but it only helped clarify for Dem voters which candidate actually stood for human rights. Yeah. I hate that it's a Kalshi post, but I will say that I think Kalshi and Polymarket do look at whoever I'm collaborating with and campaigning with, and it greatly boosts their odds. I don't know if there's a bunch of degenerate gambling addicts in this goddamn community, but every single time I've worked with a campaign, they immediately skyrocket on Kalshi and they immediately skyrocket on Polymarket. I normally don't even want to mention this at all because, as you guys know, I'm anti-gambling. I'm certainly anti-Kalshi, certainly anti-Polymarket. So I rarely ever bring it up, but it is a thing that I have noticed as well. People treat them like polls, which is stupid, but I do think there's something to be said about the betting markets being a metric for momentum and overall energy in a race. Even if there's truth to that, I still don't want to rely on it.
Did you vote for Abdul?
Somebody different.
Somebody different.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Instead of going with and we need changes and shit, you know what I mean?
We take those. They are not. Behold the magic of prediction markets in action, thinking that the race would be competitive until Emerson Poll said that it isn't competitive. Truly, we've never seen anything like it. Yeah, this is the very funny bargaining process for Shannon Watts and all these other established Democrats, which we're going to talk about. Anyway, let me finish this article and we'll get back to that. Barrand is among many progressive-minded Americans. They're looking for an alternative. Liberals remain more likely than conservatives to trust mainstream outlets, but the splintering echoes how conservatives skeptical of the party created a collection of insurgent news sites years ago. The shift has elevated individual commentators with opinions on the news, some of whom have proven influential in driving people's votes. Ryan Grimm, a co-founder of Dropsite News and a veteran of online political debate, said progressive politicians have sought out his platform to reach voters in a change from previous election cycles. They have ways to get covered, even if the mainstream just basically ignores them. One of those candidates is Abdul al-Sayed, who is running for U.S. Senate in Michigan and faces more moderate rep, U.S. Haley Stevens. Moderate U.S. Rep Haley Stevens in the August 4th primary. I think in a lot of ways where traditional media has been gatekeepers, we're watching that gatekeeping function fall away, El-Sayed said. Anti-establishment media has exploded lately. These changes have been on display this year in places like New York City, where a slate of progressive congressional candidates endorsed by Mayor Zohran Mamdani defeated establishment-backed candidates. Sarah Heiler, a policy analyst in East Harlem, originally planned to support incumbent Rep Adriana Espaillat in last month's Democratic primary, but then Heiler started learning about progressive outsider Daria Liza of Villa Chevalier through YouTube videos and podcasts, including from the liberal media company Midas Touch. This is why I still respect Midas Touch, by the way, because they are agnostic. They do lean on the side of the establishment Democrats in many instances, but they are still somewhat agnostic when it comes to showcasing outsiders as well. They're not as antagonistic as CNN, MSNBC, and all these other mainstream media outlets are, okay? And until they become that way, I will stand by their side. Okay? Listen, liberal boomers need an outlet to watch 700 different Trump is dying tomorrow videos as well. Okay? I would have the exact same opinion. Midas Touch also has like a ideological diversity as well, in comparison to, David Pakman, for example, who has increasingly become more hostile to the left flank insurgencies as time has gone on, which has been very disappointing. Midas Touch is operated with a primary function. Obviously, they're not like More Perfect Union, who I admire, adore, and find to be far closer to me ideologically. Okay? But Midas Touch operates with one primary function. And I would go so far as to say Pod Save America, which is a little bit more ideologically minded than even Midas Touch is. They hate Republicans, okay? Those are the good liberals. Some will say, never trust liberals. They will always betray you in the end. I say there is still established Republican hatred. And if you have that hatred in your heart, then you're good in my book. As long as you don't hate the DSA, or as long as you don't hate socialists more than you hate Republicans, we're fine. Okay? We're fine. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Okay? We'll cross that bridge when we get there. If there's a problem there, there's a problem there. But for the time being, as long as you hate Republicans like I do, we're good. Great message, very mature. Yes. My actual beliefs are to the left of the Democrats. I don't want a moderate, said Heiler, who ultimately voted for Avila Chevalier in hopes she could help nudge Congress towards progressive policies. The rise of independent media has been a part of a digital transformation that transcends politics as chronically online Americans are turning towards news from social media and content creators, but it's not just the popularity of smartphones driving that change. There's a complete lack of trust in any and all institutions now, said Mike Nellis, a Democratic consultant who hosts a podcast, writes a Substack, and posts political analysis on social media. That has led people to turn to individuals, and so now you're picking your flavor of person to listen to. Among conservatives, faith in mainstream media and more moderate wing of the Republican Party faltered years ago with the rise of the Tea Party movement, paving the way for an alternative right-wing media ecosystem, including sites like Daily Caller, Breitbart, and The Blaze. Trump also tapped into a loose constellation of podcasts, including the Joe Rogan Experience, for his successful comeback campaign. Now, here is one very important distinction. With the exception of like the Joe Rogan Experience and the Theo Vons of the world, or like the Andrew Schultz, there's one huge exception here. Conservative media, whether it is quote unquote independent or whether it's mainstream, still is functioning as a party apparatus. The Ben Shapiro's of the world are funded by the same exact mega donors that fund the Republican Party. The Tea Party movement itself was established by the Koch brothers. So it's always astroturfed, and it's always still churning out American Enterprise Institute and Heritage Foundation talking points. Steven Crowder, Ben Shapiro, all these other quote unquote independent outlets are still not exactly independent. The liberal to progressive side of independent media is very different. With the exception of maybe like Chorus, which even still represents ideological diversity, regardless of my criticisms of some of the more prominent Chorus actors. There are still plenty of people on the Chorus payroll that are absolutely pro-Palestine, very much in support of people like Melek Kiros, right? So there is no established pro-Democratic Party propaganda apparatus on the independent side in the way, diversity of what? Like Rachel Cohen. Yeah, Rachel Cohen's a great example. Rachel Cohen, half of the fucking people that I met at the Melek Kiros rally that are, indie content creators like TikTokers and whatnot, some of them have been paid by Chorus. Some of them work with Chorus. So the point is, independent media on the left flank is antagonistic to the establishment Democrats. Independent media on the right flank is in support of the establishment of the Republican Party. That's a major difference. Okay? That is a major difference. Reese Peck, a media culture professor at the College of Staten Island, said left-wing version of what has happened slowly, beginning with the momentum of Senator Bernie Sanders' first presidential run in 2016. At the time, left-wing anti-establishment YouTube accounts and podcasts like the Young Turks, Chapo Trap House were gaining attention but didn't reach the majority of Democratic voters. Now Democrats have realized their faith in institutions didn't prevent Trump's return. The ground has been made fertile for an anti-establishment media politics where it just wasn't quite there with the voter base in those previous cycles, Peck said. Even older, moderate liberals, he said, have started to throw their hands in the air and look for alternatives. I can give you my own personal experience with this. There have been plenty of establishment Democrats that have wanted to come on this stream. So just remember that. YouTube accounts like Secular Talk and Breaking Point, streamers like Hasan Piker, and the new digital journalism organizations like More Perfect Union, The Lever, are among those that have seen their audiences multiply. Grimm said Dropsite amassed 800,000 free and 60,000 paid subscribers since launching 2 years ago, more than he'd anticipated. We played a big role in that as well. Saul Levin, a Michigan progressive organizer who recently started his own podcast about artificial intelligence data centers, said Trump's attacks on the existing media landscape are a part of the reason for that growth. The investigations and raids on numerous different journalists, the appointment of specifically aligned billionaires to lead various major news agencies is very troubling, he said. Creators and new media outlets are stepping in to try to fill the gaps. Alternative media is prominent in the Michigan primary. The Michigan primary will be the latest test of the evolving media ecosystem, with Al Sayed, a longtime podcaster himself, has tried to harness. Various progressive outlets, creators, and organizers have aggressively promoted his campaign. I'll say it said, the rise of independent media has let voters compare news across different channels to notice biases, but he doesn't turn down opportunities on legacy media either. I go on Fox News, I go on podcasts, I Twitch stream. We have a YouTube channel, he said. Stevens, who received endorsements from outgoing incumbent Senator Gary Peters, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, has a more traditional approach. She's also backed by the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, which has spent close to $30 million on the race, more than 30 now, because there was another $5 million that they infused into the race yesterday. Stevens' campaign declined the comment for this story. Ironically enough, this is the problem with Stevens. She doesn't even do traditional media. She's just being coasted. She's just being carried by 54, 55, almost $60 million, $60 million in outside expenditures. Reporting from progressive outlets has influenced how the race has unfolded. For example, Stevens parted ways with a campaign consultant when Dropsite revealed that she has also worked for the tech company Palantir, which is controversial in liberal circles because of his government contracts involving immigration enforcement. Democratic officials said Trump's return to the White House has also revived interest in the party's official channels. The DNC, relatively new digital media offering, a rapid response clipping and messaging account with the handle FactPost News, has amassed more than 2 billion impressions on Threads, X, Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky in 2026 alone. I remember thinking to myself, there's a chance that this flops and doesn't get any traction, said DNC Deputy Chief Mobilization Officer Paulina Mangobat. It's been really, really successful. At times, the mix of new voice on the left has erupted in public tensions. Grimm recently faced criticism for boosting failed Democratic candidate Graham Plattner in Maine, and he was accused of trying to undermine the credibility of sexual assault allegation that torpedoed Plattner's campaign. Grimm said while he recognized people were angry, his reporting on the allegation was meant to share additional context. If we're going to litigate allegations in the court of public opinion, we can't pick and choose what the details we want to share with the public out of fear of how they'll be received. More recently, when Dropsite interviewed progressive U.S. Representative Ro Khanna of California, one of his journalists pressed Khanna on whether Hamas was justified to it. One of its journalists, that's Jeremy Scahill, man. That's nutty. Associated Press, put some respect on Jeremy Scahill. Jeremy Scahill is one of the last remaining investigative reporters in this goddamn country. Some of the major investigative reporters have unfortunately found themselves, caping for Republicans at times. Some of them have had unique and eclectic interests and opinions. Jeremy Scahill has not. He's one of the best investigative reporters. It's him and Olivia Reingold. Yeah. Just him and Olivia Reingold of the Free Press. But Grimm said, those are the kinds of tough questions independent media are there to ask, and that American voters increasingly want to see their representatives in Congress answer. People want to see you being accountable to questions, and if they don't agree with you, sometimes that's fine. He said, I think the smarter politicians are starting to recognize that. I think people need to chill on Ryan Grimm. Okay? I see a lot of Ryan Grimm hate over the Graham Plattner stuff. Look, there have been plenty of instances throughout both of our careers where, I've found myself sometimes disagreeing with Ryan Grimm. You guys need to calm down. Okay. I'll say it. Sometimes you're not going to agree with Grimm's coverage on certain issues. Who cares? You're wrong on this one, King. No, he still is a phenomenal reporter overall. He's been going off about Fauci. Oh God, stop. Look. All right, there you go. I shouldn't have even brought it up. I shouldn't have even said anything. Yeah, I don't care about the Fauci stuff. It's a losing battle always. One of the biggest issues I think that we will forever have is turning disagreements that we have with coverage or with attitudes, with opinions, into irreconcilable issues. Okay? I'm not even going to gloss over it beyond that. Chris Van Hollen becomes the first U.S. senator to call Israelis terrorists. Oh my God, my goat. He is popping the off. Yeah. What's the right mentality to have on these issues? Oh, dude, I just ignore it. I look at the broader output and the years and years of good work. That's it. Same with Norm Finkelstein. Norm Finkelstein, before October 7, had an entire period where he was like leaning into somewhat of a reactionary and, dare I say, transphobic perspective. He was so brain broken by identity politics and how it was weaponized against Bernie Sanders, how it was weaponized against like left flank movements, that even if there was some legitimacy to his commentary there, he went above and beyond. He was like almost singularly focused on it. He might even still bring this up. He might still even have, that residual resentment. Okay? He don't got internet. Ultimately, I'm not going to cast aside the good work that he's done in his particular field. That's it. And I hope people can also make that same calculation and be a little bit more tactical in general. I think you guys also do that for certain reporters that you like. That's it. Important lore update. Adam Mockler went to high school with this girl. I deadass went to high school with her. She was not well liked. Oh my God. She was an asshole. She wasn't liked in high school. Fully grown adult posting like a snarky child. She was an asshole. She got into an argument with our autistic classmate about clothes during this presentation, lol. Why are people defending this person? Why are people defending the coochie mogger? What the hell is going on? Is that all you had to see was just a piece of the labia? That's it? You got a crumb of cooter and you're like, I will die for this woman. That is insane. Owners, man. Who the hell is out there being like, dude, are you kidding me? She's awesome. She's just reading talking points while showing you the outline of her pussy. I'm not even being like misogynistic when I say this. He literally is doing just that. Okay? Like under different circumstances, you could be like, wow, you're objectifying a woman. Like, how dare you not listen to her brilliant commentary? Like this is, she's not even hiding it. Like, this is straight up, obviously, what she is doing. She hikes up the pants so you can see the outline of her crotch. She has an OnlyFans, which I have no issue with, okay? Sex work is real work. I love sex workers. They're great. She's doing sex work, but in the direction of fascism. This is not objectification, but objective description. Thank you, chatter.
Stop addressing Ilhan Omar as a congresswoman. I mean, she's literally a fraud. This is a person who came to the USA to corrupt its people and resources. She went from negative $65,000 net worth to over $30 million and denies it. She denies it and she blames it on an accounting error. That's not all. Then there's the winery with no clear location, no wine at all, no phone number, no visible operations. It seems abnormal, doesn't it? And then she proceeds to insult the reporter asking about these things, asking her to explain it to the people. And on top of all of these unknown things, she calls World War II World War XI. So
no one, and I mean no one sits like this unless they are at the OBGYN, okay? This is OBGYN stance. This is the OBGYN stance. She just sitting comfortably. Really?